So this video is going to be on the things Trump has said and done against women. And this is just a quick slideshow of a page on Instagram called Feminist. They had a very good article about it. Well, not article, but you know what I mean. So check that out, and I will go on to list the facts of all the things he's done. I think it's pretty relevant to say that Trump disrespects women. He does not care for women. So this is one of the first links that came up. It says a list of Trump's attacks on prominent women. I will provide links to some of the interviews or posts that he says these things on. Obviously, some of the tweets have been deleted by now, but I will try to provide the links for what I can. And obviously, you can research it yourself. I will provide the links for everything as always. President Trump has been boasting to aides that he plans on replacing a total of 4 justices on the Supreme Court. Trump has singled out 2 of the 3 female justices, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Justice Sonia Sotomayor, for their perceived health issues. Why it matters: this is not the first time Trump has insulted or attacked prominent females, including reporters, political opponents, models, and celebrities. And his most recent comments about Supreme Court justices come right in the middle of Harvey Weinstein's scandal involving allegations of sexual harassment. So we're going to start off with the things he said about judicial figures. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Trump has speculated to aides that he will be able to replace a total of 4 Supreme Court justices, including RBG, saying, "What does she weigh? 60 pounds. Common weight attack on a woman. For Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Trump then claimed that the relatively recently appointed Justice Sotomayor would be next. Her health, Trump explained, no good, diabetes. Sotomayor has opened up about her struggles with type 1 diabetes, but she's managed it successfully since childhood. Political figures. Hillary Clinton. If Hillary Clinton cannot just satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy the country? And of course, she doesn't have the look. She doesn't have the stamina. Carly Fiorina. Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that? The face of our next president? Elizabeth Warren. Pocahontas is at it again. Goofy Elizabeth Warren, one of the least productive U.S. senators, has a nasty mouth. Hope she is VP choice. Heidi Cruz. Trump retweeted a side-by-side photo of his wife along with an unflattering photo of Heidi Cruz, wife of Senator Ted Cruz, with the caption, "The images are worth 1,000 words." His attacks on reporters. Micah Brzezinski. I heard poorly rated at Morning Joe speaks badly of me. Don't watch anymore. Then how come low IQ crazy Micah, along with Psycho Joe, came to Mar-a-Lago 3 nights in a row around New Year's Eve and insisted on joining me? She was bleeding badly from a facelift. I said no. Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell is disgusting, both inside and out. If you take a look at her, she's a slob. How does she even get on television? If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie. I'd look her right in the fat, ugly face of hers and say, "Rosie, you're fired." Megyn Kelly. You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. Trump also referred to her as a bimbo. Gail Collins claims that Donald Trump called her dog and a liar with the face of a pig when he came across an article she wrote and he disliked. Katie Tur. Trump singled her out twice from the stages of rallies, calling her Little Katie, a third-rate journalist, and taunting, "Katie, you're not reporting it, Katie." Jennifer Lynn got a call from Donald Trump after writing a story on his Atlantic City businesses. The woman said, "Hold for Mr. Trump," and then Mr. Trump began to yell at me. He told me I had shit for brains. He told me I worked for a shit newspaper and said what sort of shit was I writing. I was stunned. He hung up. Maureen Dowd. From the New York Times, crazy Maureen Dowd, the wacky columnist for the failing New York Times, pretends she knows me well. Wrong. Next are things he said about celebrities. Katrina Witt. Trump said about the German gold medal winning Olympics ice skater, wonderful looking while on the ice, but up close and personal, she could only be described as attractive if you like a woman with a bad complexion who is built like a linebacker. Angelina Jolie. I really understand beauty, and I will tell you, she's not. I do own Miss Universe. I do own Miss USA. I mean, I own a lot of different things. I do understand beauty, and she's not. Anne Hathaway. So, when he had plenty of money, she liked him, but then after that, not as good, right? Cher. At Cher, I don't wear a rug. It's mine, and I promise not to talk about your massive plastic surgeries that didn't work. Ariana Huffington. At Ariana Huff is unattractive both inside and out. I fully understand why her former husband left her for a man. He made a good decision. Next are things he said about models. Heidi Klum. Heidi Klum, sadly, she's no longer a 10. Alicia Machado. Machado accused Trump of calling her fat, Miss Piggy, and Miss Housekeeping after she won the Miss Universe pageant. Trump defended himself during the campaign when the story came out, saying she was the winner and she gained a massive amount of weight and it was a real problem for us. I would not call that defending. Moving on. Family. Ivana Trump. I would never buy Ivana any decent jewels or pictures. Why give her negotiable assets? Employees. Louise Sunshine worked for Trump in the late 70s and early 80s and claimed Trump had a fat picture of her in his desk and would take it out when she did something he didn't like as a reminder that she isn't perfect. I am now going to go on to look into the sources and making sure that these things actually happen. So if you want to stop now, go ahead. If you want to continue to see my sources, feel free to, or of course, research it on your own. I'll provide the links below. I just want to insert my own thoughts and opinions that as a woman, the disrespect that he has towards women is disgusting to me. I could not imagine having a president that is like this. I cannot imagine being okay with these things being said. Even if he wasn't the president, even if he was a comedian trying to make jokes, I would not find this funny. So I fact-checked the first one, and that is something that did happen. There are tons of links towards it. It happened. There's tons of links on it. I'm going to click this middle one, and I'll show you guys what's in there. So during an interview with them that was released on Sunday night, Donald Trump addressed the issue surrounding the Supreme Court. Trump noted that Justice Anthony Kennedy has been long rumored to retire, though that would still leave 2 more spots if the president was to reach his goal of 4 seats on the court. When asked who he thought would be the other 2 justices to no longer be able to sit on the Supreme Court, Donald Trump was quick to respond. Ginsburg, Trump answered in reference to the 84-year-old Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What does she weigh? 60 pounds. He continued while mocking Ginsburg's size. I would just like to point out that in one of the articles it does state that she weighed, I think, 105 or 110 pounds during this time. She's less than 5 foot, so it does make sense for her to weigh so little. 84 years old, less than 5 foot, of course she's not going to weigh much. So again, I just googled the basics, and of course, it comes up more than multiple, plenty of resources stating what occurred. So I will click into them and do more research before I tell you guys anything else. So this was again on the same interview. So the Access report seems to include either a verbatim or composite conversation the sources have had with the president, challenging him to list which justices he will be replacing. The 4th justice listed is Justice Sotomayor, who has type 1 diabetes. It ends with this passage. Who's the 4th, the source asked. Sotomayor, Trump said, referring to the relatively recently appointed Obama justice, whose name is rarely, if ever, mentioned in speculation about the next justice to be replaced. Her health, Trump explained. No good. Diabetes. So in researching this, I actually found out that around that time, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg just spent 72 hours in the hospital after surgery for lung cancer. In October, the news website says, cited an anonymous source detailing private predictions by Trump that Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Sonia Sotomayor will retire during his term. What does she weigh? 60 pounds. Sotomayor had a health scare in January with paramedics treating her for low blood sugar, but she quickly returned to work. Sotomayor says she's vigilant about her type 1 diabetes, which she's had since childhood. So just a little bit about type 1 diabetes. Complications can affect major organs in your body, including heart, blood vessels, nerves, eyes, and kidneys. Maintaining a normal blood sugar level can dramatically reduce the risk of many complications. Eventually, diabetes complications may be disabling or even life-threatening. I just want to point out that I do have many friends, family who have type 1 and type 2 diabetes. They're fully functional. I do know older people. I'm not just talking about young people, so to suggest that people with diabetes are unable to do certain jobs past a certain age kind of seems ridiculous to me, I guess, because that's just not normal in my life. Take your own opinion on it. And I want to point out that Sonia Sotomayor, appointed by Barack Obama, has been serving since August 8th, 2009, and she is currently still serving, despite Trump's claims that by his first term, she would be retired. Along with that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, appointed by Bill Clinton, serving since August 10th, 1993, is also still serving. She's an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. Again, Trump claims that by the end of his first term, they both wouldn't be serving anymore, and, well, look at that. I am not taking time to research Hillary Clinton, as I follow Trump on Twitter and Facebook just to stay updated on politics, and I have personally seen many bad things he said about her, and I mean, I've watched the interviews, so if you're not aware of the bad things he said about her, do your own research. There's tons. Moving on. Once again, this is something that did happen. I've provided some links below, but of course there are hundreds, if not thousands. In a Rolling Stone profile published Wednesday, Trump mocked fellow presidential contender Carly Fiorina's face. Look at that face, he said. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that? The face of our next president, he added. I mean, she's a woman. I'm not supposed to say bad things, but really, folks? Come on, are we serious? Now, this is from, I think, 2015 or something like that, but I did just want to add that even if the dates aren't this year, I think it's still relevant because he hasn't changed. If there was a change in him, that would be different. I would try to be a little more considerate, but the fact that he's still saying disgusting things about women and disrespectful things about women shows that he has not changed and that he meant it just as much this day as he would any other day. Elizabeth Warren, again, just like Hillary Clinton, if you're into politics and you're actually looking at stuff like this, you know that he said multiple things. This one quote is not even one of 10 things he said bad about her. Do your own research on that. I'm sure if you just Google the two names next to each other, there will be things coming up of the bad things he says about her. I've seen it alone on Twitter too, So this is the picture that he had posted, and first off, that neither of them look like themselves in either picture, but moving on. This has since seemingly been deleted, but I did find multiple screenshots, even screen videos of it. So I don't think you can really Photoshop videos like that, like how I was seeing of, and I'll link everything below, of course. And it was also posted on, there's a site that shows Trump's deleted tweets, so I'll also show you guys that. Definitely says something about Trump whenever he posts something like this. So again, this is from 2016, late of 2016, and I just want to point out that I know a lot of the Trump supporters are convinced with fake news, blah, blah, blah. I have tons of resources saying the same exact thing. If you guys have if you have sources you want me to look at instead, comment them below, and I'll check them out and see if they're actually reliable. But the fact that so many different sources are saying the same exact thing, I don't really think at this point you can fake all of that. If it was like one or two, possibly, I would consider that to be something, but if it's hundreds of things posting the same exact thing and there's proof that he actually tweeted these things, I would consider that to be facts. So once again, provided many links to this, and I just wanted to say there is videos of her responding to Trump's tweet about her. I don't know how you would fake something like that. I don't know how you would fake imagine a tweet and then respond to millions of people. a news channel. Everybody has access to it, so I don't know how this would be false. So I'm going to share the screen recording I took of this video, and of course I will link below, but I just want to say after watching this, I'm repulsed. I'm disgusted. It's unimaginable how anybody can respect him as a human being, how anybody can vote for him, how any self-respecting woman can vote for somebody who does not respect women in the slightest.
You don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. We're all a little chubby, but Rosie's just worse than most of us. But it's not the chubbiness. Rosie is a very unattractive person, both inside and out. If I were running The View, I'd fire Rosie. I mean, I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. I'd say, Rosie, you're fired.
At this point, I just feel like there's so many examples and there's so much actual proof. Like, if you don't believe all the other ones, there's the video of him actually saying this, of his fans, of the crowd laughing and applauding him. So I'm going to be playing this short 3-minute video next, and of course I will link it below, but I find it very interesting. But if you want to skip ahead, go ahead. But this has things that Trump has actually said, and of course you can find the other interviews from the current time of him saying these things. Interesting stuff, and of course disgusting.
Heard that there was a dust-up involving yours truly and presidential contender Donald Trump. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell. The fact is, she asked me a very inappropriate question. She should really be apologizing to me. You want to know the truth. You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
I said, you know, how much of this do you take? I have zero respect for Megyn Kelly. I don't think she's very good at what she does. I think she's highly overrated.
Trump, who is the front runner, will not apologize. And I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism.
Firing off a series of negative late-night tweets about Fox News anchor and Republican debate co-moderator Megyn Kelly, retweeting a comment calling her a bimbo. On Tuesday, Fox News chairman Roger Ailes demanding an apology from Trump.
It's a very small element in my life, Megyn Kelly. I don't care about Megyn Kelly, but no, I would not apologize. She should probably apologize to me, but I just don't care.
But Fox News has had enough, pulling the interview after Trump ridiculed its political coverage and its anchor Megyn Kelly yet again, calling Kelly a lightweight on Twitter Tuesday.
Bizarre, because I became the story. He was so very focused on me that I became the story, and you never want to be the story when you're a news person. You want to be covering the story. So it was truly like an Alice through the looking glass experience.
The showdown that didn't happen, Trump and co-moderator Megyn Kelly remaining civil after their epic battle at the first debate.
Mr. Trump, hi.
Hello.
How you doing?
Nice to be with you, Megyn.
Great to have you here.
You're looking well. You're looking
As
well.
are you. If Trump is a sexual predator, then it's a big story.
You are fascinated with sex and you don't care about public policy.
Me?
Now, that's
Really?
what I get out of watching you tonight.
You know what, Mr. Speaker, I'm not fascinated by sex, but I am fascinated by the protection of women and understanding what we're getting in the Oval Office.
So I've provided a few links below for this situation with Gail Collins, and I personally wasn't very happy with everything that came up. There wasn't a ton of information on this accident, but I'm still going to read through it. Gail Collins wrote Friday that she overestimated Trump, saying that even though he once sent her notes calling her a dog with the face of a pig because he disliked a column she wrote, it did not occur to her that he'd keep doing that kind of stuff as president of the United States. Since just about everything else on this has been proven true with tons of resources and facts backing it up, I would not doubt this. And I'm going to pull up her actual column that she wrote on it, which is, I think, on the New York Times, but I've linked it below so you guys can read it. I have to confess I've overestimated Donald Trump. Back in the day, he sent me a copy of a column he objected to with some notes suggesting I was a dog and a liar with the face of a pig. I've had many opportunities to make use of the story since Trump became a presidential candidate, So it's all fine for me. However, I have to admit that it did not occur to me he'd keep doing that kind of stuff as president of the United States. Now, just because there wasn't as many resources backing this up does not mean it's not true. There was still a good deal, just not in the hundreds like some of the other ones have had. I feel like this is up to you if you want to believe this one or not, but as I've said before, the other ones have had hard evidence. So just because one could possibly be wrong, even though it's doubtful, does not mean that everything else is, because those all did have hard evidence too. So while fact-checking this, I actually came through quite a few situations where this was mentioned. NBC News, Katie Tur details unwanted Trump kiss in new book on campaign. This was 2017, but I've seen a few other articles mentioning this unwanted kiss, which is disgusting in itself, so I will provide the links, of course, below, but wow. And below it says, during his 2016 campaign, Donald Trump vehemently denied allegations of sexual misconduct from more than a dozen women, including People writer Natasha Stoynoff. But in November 2015, he bragged on live television about planting a big kiss. And then this is on her incident, and it says, the morning after the November 10th, 2015 Republican presidential debate, she writes, before I know what's happening, his hands are on my shoulders and his lips are on my cheek. My eyes widen, my body freezes, my heart stops. Heartbreaking for any woman to experience this. I know it might not seem like much to some of you guys, but just being touched, being kissed by somebody that you don't want to do any of that to, it's disgusting. Disgusting. So as I'm researching this, of course, shit for brains is what he said, but it also mentions that he also called her a C word, which I previously was unaware about. I will show you the video of her speaking on it. Okay, so I'm actually there's a few more that I haven't fact-checked, but it's, whenever so many things have been correct and truthful, I don't feel a need to fact-check the rest. Personally, I do believe the rest. You guys can, of course, feel free to fact-check it. I have the first link that states all the ones. It should be the first link that you guys will be able to see. I'm going to play the next video of this accident, and I think I don't understand how any woman can vote for Donald Trump. He's been this way for years. As you'll learn with this video, he's been this way for as far as anyone can remember, and he has not changed. He has not cared to change. I find it disgusting, the things he said. I find it disgusting that anybody could even respect him as a human being at this point. He doesn't respect women, and that's that. That's fact.
Women pigs and... It's been a rocky week for Donald Trump's relationship with female voters. Hillary Clinton berated him at the debate for calling women pigs and belittling a Miss Universe winner for gaining weight. Trump then doubled down, going to war on Twitter against the contestant, Alicia Machado, accusing her of making a sex tape. And now a female newspaper reporter has come forward to tell a shocking story about her dealings with Mr. Trump. Jennifer Lynn was a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer for 31 years. And back in 1988, she was the Inquirer's New York City-based financial reporter when she wrote about Trump's activities in Atlantic City. Wait until you hear what happened next. This is Jennifer Lynn. So, Jennifer, you wrote something that he didn't like. Then what happened?
Michael, I was working in the Wall Street office of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I got a phone call. The woman said, "Hold for Mr. Trump," and then Mr. Trump began to yell at me. He told me I had shit for brains. He told me I worked for a shitty newspaper, and he said, what sort of shit was I writing? I was stunned. He hung up. He called my boss in Philadelphia, and he treated my boss to the same sort of rant. But then he added that he referred to me as the C word, a word I will not use, Michael, because in my opinion, it's the worst word in the English language to refer to a woman. But he complained to my boss. He called me the C word, and my boss said if there was any problem with the story, we would run a correction. So what was wrong with the story, Mr. Trump? And Mr. Trump said he had not read the story. He only read the headline. So my boss said
Wow.
to call him back if there were any problems, and he never called back.
Why now? Why are you telling this story today in the context of the presidential race?
Because of the debate, Michael. The day after the debate, I went out to dinner with my friends from where I live in suburban Philadelphia. We call ourselves the Doylestown Dance Moms. And we were horrified by the things Trump has said about women. Rosie O'Donnell is a slob. Miss Universe is Miss Piggy. And I told my girlfriends in Philadelphia, I said, hey, remember when he called me the C word? Remember when he told me I had shit for brains? So that day I also went on Facebook and I posted a similar sort of thing on Facebook. And one of my friends on Facebook, who runs a website called Billy Penn, called me and said, would you mind writing about what happened and explain your story? So that's why I wrote about it.
Have you been telling the story for 3 decades?
Michael, when Donald Trump tells you you have shit for brains, that's not something you forget. And I have been telling this story for 28 years. I've been telling it to my friends and family. I've been telling it to my sisters. I've been telling it to my daughter and her friends and my nieces. I've been telling it a lot. Yes, I have not forgotten that Donald Trump told me I had shit for brains and that he called me a C word. And I have been repeating this story for 28 years. So I'm offended when the Trump campaign tells me.
Yeah, I was just going to say the Trump campaign, and I know this because it was appended to your own blog and you publicized it. David Urban, who is a senior advisor, I happen to know David, haven't spoken to him about this issue, but here's the statement. The accusation is categorically false. I find it incredibly coincidental that this person's crystal clear recollection of one sentence, one word spoken nearly 30 years ago just happens to coincide with Mr. Trump's surge in Pennsylvania. There is nothing more. This is nothing more than an avowed liberal reporter who is trying to exploit Mr. Trump's reputation as clickbait for her tabloid stories. You can have the final word to that.
Thank you, Michael. I have been telling this story for 28 years. My former editor can support my version of the story, and he will also support the fact that Mr. Trump called me a C word. And as for being a tabloid journalist, Michael, I left the newspaper business 2 years ago to write a book about Christianity in China. I am not a tabloid reporter, and this is not clickbait. I'm offended by the way Donald Trump treated me 20 years ago. He bullied me. And I'm offended now at the fact that the Trump campaign is trying to discredit me. This is a true story. It happened to me. There are plenty of people who could support this and corroborate my story. So thank you for giving me the last word there.
The booker for my program is.
So as I've said, that's going to be the last one I fact check because so many of them have already been true. Of course, feel free to fact check it on yourself. Tell me what you come up with. I'm interested to see. I just also want to point out that there have been many women who are not on this list. So many women have been disrespected by Trump, and of course you need to get into the fact that there's tons of sexual allegations against him. I would count that as disrespectful. I do not understand how any woman can vote for somebody knowing how he's like. I just, personally, I cannot do that. I cannot think like that. People like him disgust me, and that's the last thing I'm going to say.